Okay. Please, if you don't mind, because I'll be multitasking, can you help me with the spotlighting and stuff? So that's get distracted. Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Official welcome, official beginnings of the youth forum we're about to do. Just some housekeeping and introductions. I'm Daniel. For those that don't know me, I'm the health and wellbeing assistant at Khan, and so with the help of a very small team of ours, we've been able to come up with this initiative. And we hope that everyone here will actually gain something, and we'll look forward to the future sessions we have in planned. That's myself, the speakers, and every young person here as well. So um, without further ado, um, I want to introduce Peace as well. So Peace can introduce herself, and then I'll introduce the speakers, and then they will begin with their presentations. And then we will go into a Q&A session. As we know, the topic is abuse amongst young people. So those of you that have questions prepared, feel free to raise your hands. Otherwise, use the chat box to message myself or Peace. And then, yeah, we'll go with that. We'll go over to you, Peace.
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. Good evening, everyone. My name is PC Amja, and I'm the Health and Wellbeing Development Manager for CAN. It's a pleasure to be here today, and thank you all for joining the Young People's Forum on the topic abuse of young people. And I hope that you find it very informative. And just special thanks to all our speakers as well. Okay, thanks, Daniel. Over to you.
Yeah, so I'll just use the little knowledge before so that the speakers can delve more into who they are. I'll start with from most recent Emmeline. Emmeline, from what she told me, is is very well experienced in counseling in various aspects. And when we spoke literally just on Monday, she spoke like someone who voices for the young people, and just just a phone call, just one phone call, and now she's here. So uh, I just from that conversation, I really wanted her to be a part of it, and she willingly gave up, her counseling session to be here with us. So yeah, we appreciate you being here, Emily. And if you can just let people begin with your presentation and talk about a little bit about yourself and obviously your relation to young people and abuse. Thank you.
So my name's Emmeline Williams. A little bit about myself. So I went to, throughout my journey, I've worked with mental health as a whole. As I worked with victim support, a lot of domestic violence. I was a domestic violence worker. I was a human trafficking officer, a sexual violence officer, and worked in NHS and CAMS and drug and alcohol. So I very specialised in mental health as a whole. So I went to university, I did my degree, did my master's, and did a lot of research throughout my work, especially with young people as people of color, Black people as a whole. I've done a lot of research of intergeneration trauma. So that comes in the back of abuse, what as the community has endured. So that was a lot of my work. And what I've noticed throughout my journey is that, we are struggling, in a nutshell, struggling emotionally, struggling mentally, again, psychologically. We are struggling. And I paired up with a lot of organizations like Sister System. That's a Black organization that helps young girls through mentoring, and I do a lot of work with that. Also paired with Richard David's Boxing Academy. So again, that's targeting young people or finding ways of expressing. So not all counseling and therapy, young people want to do that. So I find that a lot of doing the therapeutic work, we can do art, find different ways of expression through art, through music, through boxing, and all of those stuff. So it's kind of engaging, the community, young people as a whole, to, help their mental health. So that has been one of my passion and ongoing to work on with a lot of other people, doctors and so forth. I believe in my journey with mental health, especially with CAMS, that was, I can only say, looking back on it, it was very challenging. But what I have noticed, especially in the Black community, young people are not listened to. That's what we are not listening to these young people, what they're struggling with. And again, identifying their emotion needs, labeling the emotions. I find a lot of, especially with young people, they're very frustrated, and how to articulate that in that sense. I've worked with a lot of, especially a good friend of mine in working alongside autistic young Black boys, young Black girls. So it's very much it's hard to identify neurodiverse in young girls. So I paired up with one of a close friend of mine, and we do a lot of campaigns for, especially with the stop, within the police. And because within the police, they kind of identify a lot of young boys who may be on the spectrum in that sense. So that has been one of my, one of my passions.
Hello.
Hello to you. So again, it's kind of identifying what can we do for these young people? What are their needs? Let's really listen to the young person, what they want, and how can we provide it as a community. So when I was speaking to Daniel, especially in the education sector, they are not listened to at all. So my son, who's now, he's 25 going on 26, he experienced bullying. And again, schools, as they always say, they don't tolerate bullying and what have you and so forth. But my child wasn't listened to. So it started with myself doing a anti-bullying project, going in different schools in Haringey, Enfield, and so forth, to help these young people find a voice, because their voice is there. It's just the fact that we're not listening to it. And to engage these young people to find a way of expressing, again, through music and so forth. So that's always been my journey, and going forward to do more things.
Mommy, there's no kids here. No kids.
I said, Leon, can you just stop trying to bring
Children want to be involved. It is their platform, so they need to be involved. They need to voice their stuff as well. So yeah, so that's always been my journey through mental health. Additionally, becoming a clinical doctor as well. So I'm then in my final year of especially helping in the Black community. So we have I'm very close with a lot of Black professionals. We're talking about doctors, psychiatrists, doctors and so forth. And they work on to help the community in that sense. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Emily. I'll move on to Kemoy. Kemoy, if you can introduce yourself, please.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel. And hi, everyone. Nice to See everybody. My name is Kemoy Walker. I do two jobs. In the day, I'm an assistant head teacher, so I work in a secondary school in South Manchester, with over 1,050 students daily. I teach RE. Love it, and I teach a subject called ASDAN. Many of you don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's like basic skills. So you teach them things like how to create a CV, how to apply for a job, etc. A lot of people, when people say that schools don't teach young people finance and stuff, I always say it's not every school we're talking about. There are some schools that definitely do, and my school does. So we do teach finance and all that kind of stuff in ASDAN. And then my other role is in the evening. I'm a youth worker, so I'm a youth work leader at the Powerhouse in Moss Side. I tell everyone all the time, the Powerhouse is the hub in Manchester that provides such great opportunities for young people. I've been there since I was 11 years old and still there till this day. Love the Powerhouse, and I always tell people the great stuff that go on there. I suppose for me, in terms of the topic, I was speaking to Daniel about it today, and I said I kind of more focus on a lot more about the mental health of young people, and just kind of some of the things that's going on around that. So I'll give you a little bit of a quick case study as well. And it's quite sad actually, because this is the reality of what we're dealing with young people. So I got a message while I was at youth club on Friday last week from a young person to say they were in hospital. When I asked, is everything okay? What's happened? The young person said they tried to take their own life. This is the reality of what I'm experiencing on a regular basis from young people, where they're saying that the mental health isn't that good, and it's making them want to take their own lives. And this is what I'm dealing with as a youth worker. In the evenings, I'm kind of on call, going out, speaking to young people, dealing with a lot of these stuff in the background. What I said to Daniel was I did my dissertation on mental health because I'm really passionate about it. And some of the things I looked at was how to improve young people's mental health to get it to a better state. And there were so many different things I looked at, and a lot of it was around some of the work I was already doing with my youth group in Moss Side. So a lot of the things we looked at was around youth leadership, around trying to give young people, and I think this linked in a bit with what the speaker before me was saying around young people feeling not listened to. So what I did was I looked at that, and I looked at more leadership roles that young people can be involved in, where they can lead and be more involved. And one of the things we do good at youth club is we're youth led. So even though I'm youth work leader, I allow the young people to lead the sessions and decide what should happen. So when they come there, they're the ones that lead dance sessions. They're the ones that lead the cooking. They're the ones that, when it comes to giving out the food, they're the ones that do all of that. So I kind of allow them to kind of take those responsibility on where they feel more involved, and it's worked really well. And this has been from 2019. And then obviously, as you can imagine, when the pandemic hit, that, as you know, was a massive barrier in itself, because a lot of young people kind of then were at home, kind of in the bedrooms, not coming out. And then again, that worsened mental health a lot. So I kind of decided to do a little piece of work around that, in terms of how to support those young people that weren't coming out and were at home. So what I did was, me and my group, we created something called quarantine games. It was very popular on Instagram actually, and we had loads of people that tuned in. So every Tuesday, we would create a platform on Instagram where we would go live, and we would do something called quarantine games, where young people could join, answer some questions, and then obviously if they get it right, they win a voucher. But we did that every week, and that we seen improved mental health. We've seen a lot of young people kind of coming out the shell, getting involved, wanting to get involved more, and the confidence levels grew, because we had young people that were shy, that didn't really kind of even wanted to come on the live to take part, but they did, and we've seen increased confidence and a lot more key skills that came out the back of that. Following that, what we did was we started to do a lot more trips, especially as we started to come out of lockdown. So we organized a couple of trips around going to Gilhead, for young people to kind of come away from the area, and kind of get to kind of be around other people. and we're seeing the impacts of that. We're seeing young people going away, taking part in activities that they wouldn't normally do, getting to socialize again. Because remember, lockdown created that where young people more on the phones. They were kind of losing that social skills of being around people and talking to people. So one of the things that we did a lot around was taking them away out of Manchester, where they can get to meet other people and kind of socialize and take part in teamwork activities as well, where they get the opportunity to gel around other people that they never met before. So a lot of it was again them speaking to people that they've not seen before and just finding out a bit more about them. So we did a lot of trips and coming out the area, which was really good. Then we continued to build on young people's aspirations because that was a key thing. We knew that mental health was affecting a lot of people. So what could we do that could really build on some of the aspirations to help those young people, especially if they want to, especially if they wanted to do great things with their lives. You know, what were some of the things that we did? So we looked at other things like festivals and things like carnivals, where we know that a lot of young people were very talented. So we see a lot of young people that sing, rap, dance, all sorts. And it was like, what could we do to bring everybody together and see young people to perform? So many of you will know Manchester Carnival. I run the youth stage every year, and we get up to about 2,000 and plus young people that attend. Last year and the year before, and obviously when the pandemic, when things were loosened up a little bit, we did Manchester Carnival, and we had a lot of young people that came out. They were socializing again. They were, you know, they were dancing, they were hyping. The vibe was great, and we're seeing a lot of improved mental health as a result of trying to bring those things back to normalization for young people, where they can come out their house and they know, right, okay, we're kind of back to that normality. So I found all those things really, really helped young people massively. So each year, those things have continued. So we continue to do things like Manchester Carnival. We're involved in Manchester Park Life and those other wider, bigger festivals where we're taking young people there that again, you know, lost the confidence during the pandemic and really wanted a boost and really wanted to get involved. So all those things was really great for young people. So in terms of those conclusions and recommendations, I kind of just wanted to share a few because I carried out different bits of investigations, different bits of things that I thought really, really work. So I've kind of said, obviously, since the pandemic, lots of good work has taken place to support our young people to become more resilient and to be leaders in their community, because that's what we want. We want, like the speaker said before, young people are not speaking, or they've lost, you know, they're kind of not being involved or having a say. And that's something that we're trying to address to get the mental health and get themselves into a better place. So it's supporting young people through engagement in activities that can really boost the self-esteem and confidence. But also looking at what they're interested in. What, you know, a lot of the young people I spoke to were very keen on music, was keen on the art side of things. So it was looking at creating those positive opportunities to connect those young people specifically to those areas that they were interested in. And then once we've seen that those projects worked well, we know that obviously we can continue on working more in partnerships with others as well, which was quite a key thing for us as well. One of the big things for me though was that work with young people that come from disadvantaged communities, because they were the ones that were most affected because they didn't have much. So I really, really tried to look at those kind of young people, and especially those young people that might be involved in, like, say, antisocial behavior as a result of not having services open during the pandemic. So if many of you seen on the news when the pandemic happened, youth clubs had to close. So we closed for best part of a year. But what happened was some of the young people that came to us, because of the youth clubs closing, they found other avenues that weren't the best or wasn't positive. So it ended up them going to like a different lifestyle and stuff. So we had to really try and invest and restart again to get those young people back involved in those positive activities, which is what we did a lot of piece of work on. And we've started to see those fruitions as a result of that. So it's been really, really good. So just to kind of sum up in terms of mental health, obviously, a lot of great work continues to happen. So continuous workshops and group sessions at the youth club, speaking to young people about mental health. So we don't want to come, we want them to know that we know that it exists, and we know a lot of them are going through it. So we continue to have those conversations. I went away, I became a mental health first aider as a result as well, because I wanted to learn more to then kind of bring that into our sessions. Working with the staff team as well, allowing them to understand a bit more about mental health and what young people are going through, inviting other youth centres to come and see the work we're doing around mental health and bringing people together, speaking to charities and organisations like 42nd Street that have been so involved in the work that we're doing. They come to our sessions once a month and talk to young people as well about the topic, which is great. So a lot of great work going on. I could tell you a lot more, and a bit keen to chat to a lot of other people as well, and that keen around this area around mental health, because there's a lot more that was done. There's a lot more things that we did as a youth club and continuing to do around Moss Side, Manchester and other surrounding areas that, you know, if people are kind of keen on hearing a bit more, like in the question session and stuff, like, please ask a bit more, because we did a lot of work around leadership. We did a lot of work around aspirations and mental health. So there's a lot of pieces of work that was done that we've seen worked, and some that we're continuing to do that I'd be keen to definitely speak to people about. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kemoy. Thank you. Yeah, just so I think it was Steve in the chat box. I saw your question, but we just want to allow Emmanuel, Pastor Emmanuel, to introduce himself and speak about him, and then we'll go into the questions after that. So just patiently bear with us, and then your question will be answered. So over to you, please.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you to the speakers who have done great justice, you know, in a subtle way with the subject. My name is Emmanuel Emeka Ajoku. So some people outside this circle will know me as Emeka, and some Emmanuel. I'm a local pastor. I pastor a local church in Manchester, and we have a lot of young people. And also I'm part of CAN, their church liaison. You know, I'm passionate about young people. And growing up, also have led youth groups and been involved with young people all my life. You know, the church I lead at the moment, you know, have significant number of young people. And this is one area I'm very, very passionate about, you know, helping young people. But, you know, when I was asked to come in and talk about, you know, young people and abuse, and I somehow, you know, I felt I should emphasize this area. I want to thank our previous speakers for what they have spoken. You know, that's great. And it is an obvious aspect of, you know, abuse that we should look into. But I am very much in particular about sections of abuse that are very subtle, which if we're not careful, you know, attention will be given to it. And, you know, abuse, psychological abuse, indoctrination is an abuse. And especially within the circle I work, you find out that this kind of abuse, if not well, you know, tackled or taken care of, you know, have a, you know, more, you know, I mean, will open the door for other forms of abuse. Let me give you an example. I remember growing up as a you know, as a young boy to being involved in youth circle and various organizations. I had a friend who used to be part of us. You know, the group I was then was a church youth group. But somehow after high school, he left for another city, and you know, found himself in the midst of other young people. And few years after that, we found this brilliant young man, young boy. We all had, you know, Stephen by name. We had great expectation for a few years after, when we're all in uni graduating. Never made anything meaningful out of his life. It was later during the interview I found out that he was much indoctrinated by the group he belonged to then, and he didn't see need for education. I'm not saying education is everything, but you know, his career purpose all died because he was subtly abused, psychologically, indoctrinated, and he didn't see any reason to really become meaningful or, pursue meaningful career in life. And that really brought my attention to the fact that, yes, it's easier to notice physical abuse, sexual abuse, but when there is psychological indoctrination, because it's a form of abuse, and we actually, identify such abuse. And I always challenge young people, and if you're being abused along that way, would you know? If you're being indoctrinated, if you're being changed, a lot of people, wrong behaviors we see in families, antisocial behaviors among young people. It was a result of abuse, indoctrination, psychological abuse. People is psychological, or sometimes you can even see it as institutional, where, in order to be part of a group, young people are subtly made to drop their identity in order to conform. And these things are quite, a big issue, especially within our Black sector. It could happen in a church, if you get into a wrong place, that's why I want to guide those space. It could happen in a school, and then because they are not obvious physical attack or sexual attack, it can just carry on for a long time undetected. So my challenge and what I will be leaving us here today is that when we talk about abuse, we're talking about, activities of others, how it affects you, misuse you, change your, who you are or your orientation, or affect you psychologically or emotionally, or even affect your future or intended parts of life. So while we emphasize on mental health, wonderful, we have to, is a big issue around young people, emphasize on physical, alcohol and substance abuse, we should not neglect indoctrination and psychological abuse, because at the end of the day, you find out a lot of people, when they're psychologically abused this way, it's not affect their mental health, they just grew up, young people grew up and become angry with life, they find out they have wasted all their time, most of their youthful life. And if they're not being corrected, you see them becoming the abusers, extending, being instrument to abuse other people, because they are not happy with life. So, and this is an area I always want to get involved to actually help, create a very, a healthy space for young people, so that their mindset, their psychic and all that is well protected, so they are not being indoctrinated, turning them into what they are not. I'm going to leave it there. I hope this is not too strange, but this is one area I would like to help young people. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pastor Emmanuel, and thank you to all the speakers that have spoken. So, as I said in the beginning, for those of you that have just come, we will be going into some questions for directly to the speakers and the panelists. But before we do that, there was already a question posed to Kemoy in the chat box. Let me just read that for you. And also, if at any point anyone feels, what we're talking about is a bit sensitive, please feel free to leave. If the question is a bit, like I said, too sensitive for you, then please feel free to leave and, yeah, prioritize yourself. But yeah, the question was from Mr. Steve was, Mr. Walker, do you think you can help young boy who takes too much weed? If yes, please give a number to contact. So in answering the question, if Kemoy, you can relate it to maybe the topic as well, so that, yeah, over to you. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, you can unmute yourself, please. No? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, it says you only the host can unmute. Yeah, I think in terms of linking it back, obviously, in terms of even smoking. So, Mr. Steve, thank you for asking that question. Again, a lot of that smoking could come down to trauma, abuse. That's why when I speak to a lot of young people about all these different things, because I try and understand why young people do these things. So it's not always that when we say, oh, they smoke too much weed, sometimes people can see it as, oh, they're bad. Do you know what I mean? But sometimes there's a lot that's happening in that young person's life as to why they're doing that, and they could be doing that because they're trying to block out the trauma of whatever's happened, and a lot of young people become heavy smokers for that reason, to try and block out what's happening in their lives. So yeah, in terms of that, Daniel, I think I've already connected with Mr. Steve to say he can give me a call or a text or a message, and we'll look into it. But yeah, in terms of interventions, Mr. Steve, and just to everyone out there, like, there's always stuff that can be done to support young people. I'm sure Emmeline can agree and with me in terms of that one, in terms of interventions and things that can be put in place to support young people, to get them away from even things like smoking and stuff. So it's worth a conversation, but we can talk about why that young person's doing that, and you know, we can find out a bit more information to then put the right support in place.
Thank you, Kemoy. I don't know if Pastor Emmanuel or Emmeline has wants to bring something from their point of view in relation to that question.
Yeah, I can definitely echo that. You know, it is. I have a case study of a young. Well, he's now probably in his 60s. So he came from the Caribbean. He saw his dad being shot. You know, he was at the age of 5. Came to the Caribbean. So again, the childhood trauma, being shot, you know, and so forth. He was 5 at that time. Came over to the UK. Again, the transition from hot country to a cold country, that's trauma in itself. That's another layer of trauma. And again, being exposed to school, and you know, and you're very much aware of the education service, not all, but some, you know, being bullied, another form of add on to trauma. So again, complex trauma there, you know, in that sense. So his way of dealing with all of the stuff was taking substance, drinking and smoking weed. And what it escalated to serious mental health, schizophrenia. But a lot of professionals, once they're not going back to the roots of the trauma, they're not going back to the historical, what the young person, that person that has been exposed to, what that person experienced to, what they did was medication. You know, and again, we know what weed does, hallucination and so forth, and what have you. As much as it can be, and it can be a relaxing substance, it can cause a lot of effects in the body and in the mind. So this person used weed as a way of escaping through his trauma, lost a father, you know, saw his father being shot, the transition from school, education service, and friendship, and so forth. And later on, that individual was diagnosed with schizophrenia. You know, and what I tend to do is not necessarily with the mental health. It's not to label, you know, it's to go back and unlock all that trauma. So again, long-term therapy, that individual could have long-term therapy in that sense and get the help that they need. But what, you know, it was given is medication. It was misdiagnosed with schizophrenia, but he was very much complex trauma. So what I did was doing a long-term intervention to help him get back to, or trying to find some normality. Yeah.
Thank you, Emmeline. Thank you for that input. Pastor Emmanuel, do you have something you'd like to add as well, or should we?
Yeah, just to add to what my colleagues have actually, I mean, the approach is wonderful, but just to add to that, I've also found that, in addition to what, professionals are doing along that line, what we find, pair to pair, creating an atmosphere where these young people can find people who love them, who can encourage them, because sometimes loneliness and going through this journey on your own is a big trauma on their own. So, as a local pastor, we've seen young people come into youth groups with habits, either as a result of trauma or whatever, but seeing that other young people who face similar things handled it better, and they begin to change the orientation. That doesn't stop them going to the therapies they are going, but they have a peer support base, and coupled with some other religious activities, and you find that they are strong in their mind to handle some of the pressures of life. So I'm saying with, therapies, fine, added with, recently now, even the medical science is doing social prescribing, and the church and the youth groups we have around the churches have actually helped along that line. So what I'm saying, in addition to all this other therapy, having a peer support, having, role models, not from a distance, young people of, of similar background, making success as out of, similar experiences could also help in that. So that'll be my addition.
Okay, thank you. Steve, I hope that I'm very confident that your question was answered in abundance. So yeah, we actually have a young person who goes by the name of Joyce has a question. She is willingly open to speak herself, so I'll just mute her and she will be able to ask the question if she's still on the call. If not, yes, she is. Yeah. Yep, Joyce, go ahead when you're ready, please.
Hello. Okay. Can anyone hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
Yep. Okay, cool. Hello, my name is Joyce, and I'm in the second year of college. And by the way, thank you for everybody who just spoke. It was very insightful, and it kind of reminded me of my experience in high school. Like, I didn't realize a lot of the things that you guys said, like bullying, um, or like being influenced by the people trying to fit in kind of happened to me until I was probably like in my last year of high school. A lot of people, especially people my age, don't tend to admit when they have been bullied or when they have been influenced or when they act a certain way because they're trying to fit in or they're trying to stay relevant, as I say nowadays. So my question is, how do you think people like me can talk about it? Because one thing that I struggled with was talking about things like this because it happened so long ago that I felt like, okay, like it doesn't matter anymore. Like I've already been through it, I'm healed, when in reality, like that I'm not healed because it's still affecting, well, it's not affecting me now, but during that stage, it was still affecting me somehow. Like, for example, making friends and socializing, like I was always kind of like questioning people's motives because of the way that they used to interact with me. Like, let's say if I was bullied before and I had to leave that friendship or that relationship, I start questioning, oh, does this person even like me because of the way I am, or are they trying to gain something from me, or are they just trying to pretend to be nice to me so that they can use me, or like we tend to ask questions like this to ourselves. So the question is, for young people like me who have already been through that type of stage in life, in high school or in college or even in uni, like some people don't admit that they've been influenced by other people because they think that they're grown up and, you know, that they're unsupervised and they feel like they don't have anybody to talk to, or they feel alone, especially in the first year. I'm not in uni yet, but I know that people feel like that. And again, they tend to go, you know, they tend to feel the need to escape. Escapism is like the answer for them. So then they end up like drinking or, you know, smoking weed or even sleeping with people so that they can kind of escape from that feeling. Sorry. My question is, how can we, like as a young person, kind of um talk about it without us feeling like that thing that happened to us is dragging us down? Or like, how can we talk about it without it being such a big thing? Because another issue is that whenever we tend to talk about things like this to counselors, let me be honest, they kind of make it like a big deal in the sense that, like, oh, you need help or you need to see somebody, or let's do like a weekly checkup so that so that we can see that it doesn't affect you in an everyday scenario. Yeah, my question is just, how do we kind of talk about it without it making it seem like it's the end of the world, or that, you know, we have depression, when in reality it's just something that has affected us, but we're trying to kind of move from that situation and that scenario so that we can prevent that happening to us, and we can move on and help ourselves and also help others, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Would any yeah, go on.
No, it's all right. I didn't know whether you wanted us to just start straight away.
No. Yeah, feel free. I was gonna say, does anyone want to speak? But
Joyce, well done, Joyce. You've made the first step. You know, in terms of you as a young person, I've already led the way by speaking about it now. And I think that's good because it allows us to understand a bit more and to know that there are other young people in similar positions that still kind of want a bit of advice around it. Joyce, this links into a lot of the things I was speaking before about, like obviously a lot of the work that I did around my dissertation on this, because everything you spoke about was about youth voice, young people again having their voice, finding their voice to be able to talk about things. I think you would be great, and other young people would be great for things like debate club, where you can get around the table with other young people and have these conversations. We do that at youth club, and you'd be surprised how many young people open up and share like the stuff around school. All it takes, Joyce, is sometimes young people like yourself to lead the way, start the conversations, and you'll see other young people join afterwards to share what they've been through as well. And we've done that not long ago, where young people around the table were talking about school and being bullied. And I remember other young people share their experiences. And it got to a point where like other people just started becoming emotional, because it was like they been through the same thing, but they just needed somebody to talk about it. And I think there needs to be more young people like you that can come forward and go, do you know what? We need to make the first move and get this going. You know what it's like with young people. Once somebody starts talking about like their mental health and what they've been through, you'll see other young people start to come forward. I find that a big thing, that when I start to have like conversations on Instagram, or I'll do a poll or a question, that other people start to come and go, do you know what, Kemoy, I'm glad you mentioned this, because I want to talk about it now. You know, I want to share my story. So Joyce, I think the way forward is definitely to start coming around the table more, start creating little bits of conversations with people to get other people to start talking about things. And I think you'll find that once that start happening, you'll see that everyone will start to come forward and share their story on it. So I just want to say well done, because you made the first step, the first move in doing that. And I think we need more of that to happen for others to come forward and to share their story too.
Now, if I can make contribution, well done, Joyce. That was wonderful. Even though you've asked a question, you have also challenged some of us who are community leaders, and I'm going to personally look into this, to find and create a very safe space where, some of all these voices can come from young people to inspire their own people. So thanks, you've challenged us, me in particular, to see how we can just both within the places that have influence among young people and other leaders I, talk to see whether such forum can be created. But in addition to what you've said, I think, it's also good since you are a bit matured now. Your experience will be good if you can do one-to-one mentoring. See some other young people within your space, without having a big formal setting, because sometimes young people learn more from their young people, and kind of use the experience to help other people. You were strong to be able to overcome some of the challenges you had. Some other people might not be as strong as that. Mostly all this subtle indoctrination and psychological manipulation that young people to conform and become what they were not trained to be from home, and and from their background. So that would be good if while you've given us challenge to see how we can help voices like yours, but you can continue by looking at within your little space of influence and begin to do one-on-one, 2, 3 people, just share your story with them. And that would be a good way to start. That would be my contribution.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Emily, do you want anything to add? I believe there's also a question in the chat box that may be seated towards you.
Okay, I will echo that, and it's amazing that you started already, to be honest. When we're looking at mental health, I always kind of round it out as we all have mental health illness. That's another thing. We all feel sad and feeling frustrated and so forth. And I feel very much as you start small, and what I mean by that, if you're feeling overwhelmed of talking to someone, just write it down, journaling, writing your feelings down. So when you start building yourself up to find a way of building yourself up to feel comfortable of voicing what you say in your journal, that's when you can start seeing the progress. So I will say very much start very small. If you find it struggling, I hate using the word can't, if you find it struggling or challenging to show your voice, write it down. I'm a very creative therapist, so I kind of like, if you like music, write it down in music. Poetry, write it down in poetry. Then you can start building yourself and start going to mentoring and so forth, and going to therapy or talking to friends and so forth. I very much like, yes, look at the small things, because once you do the small things, then you can start building yourself up, building up your confidence, building up your self-esteem and so forth. But yeah, I definitely echo what both of them are saying, in that sense. But yeah, just start small, but standing here, sitting here and talking about your stuff, it's amazing. I will echo that. It's amazing.
Yeah, thanks, Emily. I'm just wondering, are you able to answer the question on the chat around
Okay.
So Taylor has asked he said, thank you so much for giving this opportunity. I have a personal problem. My GCSE is around and I am depressed, anxious, and nervous. Can you please give me some tips to overcome this?
It comes with anxiety in that sense of fascination, or I guess is the aim is, what are you trying to achieve? You are trying to do your GCSE, CBT techniques. It works does what it needs to do, is doing practice, finding techniques that helps you manage your mood, i.e., you know, speaking to parents or speaking to a friend, journaling, having a long walk, things like that. And when it comes to essays, or, you know, when I was studying and doing my dissertation several times, I used to use the format of, you know, brainstorming. You got your main body and your middle and your end, or what have you, in that sense. Or, you know, do every task every an hour, write a bit of your essays or what have you an hour, and do a little bit of self-care, then go back the next day. It's fine trying to find things that will help you, because everybody's different in that sense. So when it comes to doing a lot of homework or essays and so forth, it's finding your way, what works for you. So for me, it will be doing if you're a morning person, doing some work in the morning. Then in the evening and the afternoon, that was about my dying time in that sense. Speaking to friends in that sense, of having a group and what have you, working in that format. When it comes to anxiety and stress, self-care, when I talk about self-care to a lot of people, I always ask, what is your self-care? You know, talking to friends, playing music and so forth. I always say double that, you know, because of the stress the anxiety that you're going through. Always double the self-care. So if you do it once, do it 2 times. If you do it 2 times, do it 3 times. Things like that to help you manage your mood. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you very much, Emily. And I hope that answers your question, Taylor. But if not, just feel free to email us. I think we'll be popping our email towards the end of the session. And if you would need any personal support, please let us know.
Please, can I make a little bit contribution to this?
Please do, sir.
Emily, you've spoken great. Thanks for that. But I also wanted to bring this perspective. You know, Emily have told us practical things to do. You know, sometimes young people put a lot of pressure on themselves, unhealthy pressure. So what I tell them is this: you are not competing with anybody. You want to be the best you can. You know, if that isn't the mindset, because sometimes what puts the pressure is, oh, am I as good as this person? Am I as good as that person? And then you begin to put unnecessary pressure on yourself. Now, the ideal thing will be, you know, do your best to be the best you can. Now, what I would like you to note, some children can study very well and they're just a B student. You understand? That's the ability. Do your best and be that B. You know, and within yourself, you know, you've done the best you can. You know, where as a parent, you know, where parents, you know, can come in just to know their child's ability. You just want to help them maximize their ability. So if you know that you're not competing with anybody, you want to be the best, get the best grade you can get. Do your best. You know, the practical steps Emily told you, put them to help you relax so that you are not, you know, giving yourself on, you know, unnecessary pressure in your mind. So that's what I'm going to say. Don't underachieve. It's good for us to, you know, for us to maximize our potential, but the competition is being the best and not, you know, competing with your colleagues and your friends. Okay, thank you.
Again, just echoing that question. Sorry, it's just echoing that question. So what is the best? Challenge your negative thought. What is the best? Yes, again, especially with young people, it's like the negative thoughts, we have to challenge them. You know, it's very much as like, oh, again, for example, if a young person, I have worked with many, young person, they used to say to me, I'm not good enough. Who told you that? Who told you that you're not good enough? So I always narrow it down. Let's look at who told you that. Let's make those words, those voice very smaller. and let me hear your voice. It's challenge the negative thoughts. So it's very much as using those concepts of, you know, when it comes to education, you know, I'm not good at this. Who told you that? You rightly say, do your best, but who told you you're not good? Be your own voice in that sense. Yeah, be your own voice. Have the support, friends and family, but also be your own voice. Because, you know, especially young, they are finding their feet in this world. Remember, they're young. They're, you know, they're just trying in this world. They're trying to get who they are, and they haven't got who they are because they're still growing. So it's just challenging those negative thoughts. Yes, put a lot of positivity within these young people.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you. Be your voice. Another question for Pastor Emmanuel. So it says, at what point can you mark the difference between religious and psychological manipulation?
Okay, I hope I really got what they mean. Religious and psych. Now, what a manipulation could be religious manipulation when somebody is trying to actually get you or force you into taking an ideology, not willingly. I mean, as a Christian, I'm a pastor. Even the Bible, we can present the truth, but it's for you to make up your mind to follow that. You know, as Christians, Jesus never forced anybody to do anything. You know, and that's what we're just trying to. Whether somebody have done it subtly, you know, is, you know, we can present the truth. So when you begin to talk about manipulation, any form of manipulation, whether it's religious or not, is wrong. But having said that, I don't know whether I wish the person could throw more light to where he's going or she is going with the question. But what I'm going to say is manipulation could happen. There are people who have been indoctrinated. We have a lot of people of other faiths where, even among Christian faiths, where people are indoctrinated to a level, they start doing things that's not rational anymore. You know, so indoctrination, no matter what form it comes in, is wrong. You know, so religious indoctrination means psychologically you have been influenced so much more that you're doing things and you're no longer reasoning about it. You know, and I think it's wrong in any form. That's what I'm going to say for that. But if the person actually want to talk to me personally so that I understand where the person is coming from and guide them more, you know, they are free to do so.
Thank
Yeah,
you. Yeah.
Go on, Daniel.
Thank you, Pastor Emmanuel. A question for Emmeline. The question is, what would you say, even though this might be, you could talk a lot about this, but what could you point out is triggers that you're aware of that triggers, you know, abuse in young people, and how can they spot the signs for themselves?
What are the signs?
How could they like, so what triggers young people in terms of like abuse, like mental, physical, psychological, and how could they spot the signs early enough?
Like, I was going to answer in two parts of, you know, part of me saying there's no sign, and part of me saying there is some sort of sign. If you're looking at the classical of safeguarding, the physical, you know, the physical marks, abuse over the body and so forth, or you see the neglect in that sense of a young person coming to school, not dressed, not well kept, and so forth. Financially, they are asking for money or what have you. There's a lot of with that. However, how I work is very differently. You know, I very much see the signs with abuse is when the young person use the language. So again, for example, if a young person say to me, you know, my mother told me to do this or what have you, that's when I explore what that looks like. And that will give me some indication of abuse. But again, I kind of play it down in a sense. I don't go in, you know, this child it's been exposed to any form of abuse. It's more investigation. But the classic ones, especially with safeguarding, you know, is, you know, the lots of physical, the psychological. The psychological could be a lot of manipulation by friends, by parents, siblings, or what have you. What I've noticed, especially working with domestic violence many years ago, young people are being exposed to domestic violence. And that could be from in a relationship, a young relationship, and we're talking about 17, 18, and so forth, that a lot of abuse is happening in young people while they're having relationship. A lot of conversing behavior, a lot of manipulation, and so forth within the community. So it kind of varies. There's not a, you know, a one rule fits all. You know, it's more or less looking at it and, you know, exploring more. But there's a lot of the abuse can be, you know, very much, and when I say typical, we're talking about safeguarding in that sense. Hope that answered the question.
Yeah, thank you so much, Emily. And I hope that answers the question for the person who asked. So there's another question, very sensitive question, and it's directed to Kemoy. So I'll try to read it without kind of being specific, if that's okay. But when I mean specific, like calling out the name there. So it says, so there's someone on the call who has a friend that is trying to end their life. She's been burning herself, and her mom isn't supporting her. Well, she's told her to kill herself. She's been missing school a lot and is having lots of flashback of the trauma, and is dropping down. The person wanted to know if there is any youth club surrounding the topic of suicide. So I'll allow Kemoy to come in and then others can touch base afterwards.
Thank you so much. That's such in terms of the last bit, in terms of is there any youth clubs, definitely there are youth clubs around. It's definitely worth a conversation 100%, and this is why these sessions are useful, because we've got some information there that is critical, that can really help. So I would definitely love to link up with that person, please, to obviously offer that kind of support around the youth clubs and stuff. I would say the friend 100% needs some support in terms of that. Definitely, if they're feeling low, feeling suicidal, 100% services are out there to support with that. I was even going to direct them to Khan in terms of this is what, yeah, I direct a lot of young people to Khan in terms of like when they are feeling a bit low or they want to talk to somebody or they need some bits from counseling and stuff. I always send them the Khan's details for that area, counseling, therapy, so they can connect with Khan. So I'd say definitely to that person to connect with Khan around the counseling. I'm sure Emmeline can provide some advice around that area as well. But in terms of the youth club support, 100%, like we would cover any topic that any young person wants us to cover. And that's what I meant about youth led. If that young person came forward and said, right, they're going through this, they're feeling suicidal, can we do a session around that? Absolutely. We can definitely get together. Even if it's short notice, we can do it. We can definitely get together around and definitely discuss that as a topic. So definitely connect with myself 100%. We'll make that work. But I would say definitely speak to Khan around some support, especially around suicidal thoughts. And all of us can help that friend of yours.
Yeah, thanks, Kemoy. Any other thoughts from Emily or Emmanuel?
Yeah, suicidal thoughts. Yeah, there are a lot of Samaritan, a child line service. You can do it anonymously. If the young person is suicidal at this moment to want to end their life, because again, the way how I work with young people that who wants to, or suicidal thoughts, it's very different. There's two things. There's very much I want these feelings to end, or I want to end my life. So if a young person's feeling overwhelmed, very frustrated, and things are not going their way, it's more or less I want to end the feelings. I don't want to be, because the feelings are very much overwhelmed. It's going through the body and so forth. Or I want to not be here anymore. So if that young person is displaying, I don't want to be here, my advice is go straight to A&E. Go straight to A&E. They have Christ team there. If it's a young person under 18, they have Christ team there with CAMS. Any A&E, they are very, they have Christ team. So there's a lot of interventions that you can do with suicidal young people who wants to have suicidal thoughts and so forth. So yeah, and self-harm, because I specialize in self-harm, and that's another area. And again, as you rightly said, that this young person has been exposed to trauma. There's a lot of intervention. There's a lot, and what does self-harm means for this young person. Again, using feeling frustrated, feeling angry. Some young people use it as a coping mechanism because they don't want to do anything, a way of coping, so they don't want to commit suicide. So what I tend to do, especially when young people are displaying that, is the safety. Yes, put a safety plan around that, and and help with long-term therapy.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much, Emily. So yeah, feel free to get in touch with us, and then we can signpost you. For the person who asked, I'll be in touch as well. I don't know if there's any other question on the chat. Okay, yeah, Daniel has a question. Okay, Daniel, please.
Yeah, I know our target audience is not just young people, but then also maybe some parents here, or to ask if there's any parents on the forum, on the call, or in the chat box that wants to ask a question in relation to maybe a young person you know, or a young person you deal with, just so that we can get on both perspectives. If not, then it's fine.
So while we're waiting for maybe a parent or two to ask a question, and there's a question that says, what impact does abuse have on young people?
A lot of impact. We see it day in, day out. I mean, I work in a school and youth club, so I speak to a lot of young people who talk about emotional abuse at home, physical abuse, where obviously services are now involved. For the way how I see it, I mean, growing up, I come from Jamaica, so I had a lot of physical beatings and stuff like that because of just simple things like I didn't do my chores, and things like that. But even till this day, I remember those things. Like it never forgets you. These, even though some people might look at it now and laugh and go, "I had some beatings when I was young," and stuff like it still stays with us. So I always kind of urge when I do talks with parents and stuff, I always urge them to obviously think about what they are doing, because a lot of the young people that come forward even talk about things like, oh, my parents said I'll never be good enough, or I'll never get to go uni, or this and that. And even just that impact emotionally on a young person is big. When I was growing up, my mum used to say, call me these names in Jamaican patois, that still stays with me, because I'm thinking when I'm older, like I was told I was, useless boy, get up, now all these things. And I was thinking like, wow, mummy don't realize the impact of her words, and how these things have later on in life, how it could have really impacted on me. It didn't, obviously, but like these things that even our parents don't realize what they do. I speak to a lot of Afro-Caribbean young people who tell me some stories and just tell me how difficult it is at home because they can't even speak to the parents, about anything, So that's why I feel like there's a lot of young people, especially our Black Afro-Caribbean young people, where they're going through stuff, but they cannot share that with parents. Like the young person who raised the question before about GCSEs and feeling anxious and nervous and stuff. Like sometimes I think like a lot of even young people that are going through those kind of feelings, they want to share that with their parents but can't because the parents will be like, no, listen, you're tough, man. Behave yourself. And we hear that all the time, especially being Jamaican. I can't go to my mom or my dad and tell them, oh, I'm struggling with this. No, man, you're tough, man. Behave yourself. You know what I mean? And this is the behaviors that and the things that the young people are getting back from parents, hence why they can't have those conversations. So what I always urge parents to do is listen. You need to listen to your young people, listen to your child, and let them be able to come and confide in you without judgment. Like let them be able to come and talk to you without them kind of worrying, oh, my mom's going to react to this way. So I think there's a big disconnect that needs fixing and sorting amongst our Afro-Caribbean families and things. And this, I know a lot of people talk about this all the time, but we definitely need to do like a big world session with parents around just emotional abuse and how the things that they say really has a big impact on our young people. So I just kind of wanted to say that because it made me really think growing up and childhood memories of some of the things my family used to do and things they used to say that have scarred a lot of people in my family for life, really.
Yeah, thanks, Kemoy. I don't know, does any other person want to say something? And if not, I think there's another question that's coming. But then, yeah, really important. We need to have another session sensitizing parents, guardians, and people. And that's why we have the Young People's Forum. So we'll be bringing your way webinars and topics that actually speak to the needs of young people in our community, the African community, the Caribbean community. So please just stay tuned because we'll have more topics around this coming your way. And definitely we need to address them because, yeah, they're impacting young people's mental health.
And what I'm glad about this as well, sorry to cut you just
no worries, go on.
Say what I'm glad as well to see is young people kind of asking for advice and wanting to know wanting to know how they can deal with certain things, because I feel like there's a massive group of our young people out there that are a bit lost and just don't, I mean, they're trying to navigate through life, but they're stressed, they're going through a lot, the mental health is not in a good place, and they don't know where to go or who to speak to. And I think the fact that we've got young people here asking those questions is fantastic, because they need to be in spaces like this to kind of talk and ask for advice and pass those advice on to friends that they have that they know are going through the same thing. So I just wanted to say well done to the young people as well.
Yeah. Thanks, Kemoy. And just to echo what you said, well done to the brave young people who are speaking up today. So a question says, well, an anonymous one. So the person says, I have a friend who can sometimes be really harsh with people. She doesn't even realize how much it hurts them. It's tough to watch because I care about her, but I also see the pain she causes. Whenever I try to bring it up, she just brushes it off and gets defensive. I want to help her understand, but I'm not sure how to get through to her without pushing her away even more. So what advice can you give to this person? More like concerned about her friend, but sees the kind of ill behavior the friend portrays to other people. But then she wants help for that friend without pushing the friend away. So what would you advise?
If I can come in here, you see, in as much as it's important to help another person, but I think the most effective, approach to issues like this is when you realize that somebody is abusing you, or in this kind of subtle behaviors that can affect you, it's better to withdraw. You understand? Because you have control of yourself, not the other person. Now, why you softly, like, the person who asked this question, to find a way to actually help the person. Now, and how to tackle the question. I would think if you can invite your friend to programs like this to start with, because often sometimes from a neutral person without attaching any sentiment, because people will always feel justified when they look at things from their own perspective. That could be a healthy way of helping the person. If there are other programs, the person can go. Yeah, but you can also try talking to the person. Fine, but if talking would not work, it would be better, invite the person. Oh, there's this program going on. Let's go and listen, or maybe invite them in the next webinar we're going to have, or similar program, and that might actually begin to challenge their reasoning to say, the way things are going and the way they're handling things might not be good. I don't know whether that's, sounds right for the person. Bye.
Thank you. Any other thoughts from the other speakers? Thanks, Pastor Emmanuel.
I was going to say it sometimes can be a little bit. It can sometimes be a little bit delicate, I suppose, if you've got a friend and you want to support them, but you're also worried that, well, you know what they're like sometimes in terms of if you try to support them, sometimes it can be a bit off with you because they don't want you to do that. So it's kind of like a very difficult one to answer. I suppose I would just say, just obviously try and continue being there for them, but also try and persuade them, I suppose, to take the support or get the support. I know it can be difficult for friends to do that sometimes, but it's a very difficult one as well to kind of answer.
Yeah, I do agree in that sense. And maybe, not looking at the friend and looking at if you need the support. Yeah. Maybe you're the one who, not saying anything in a bad way, but, this person is doing what they doing and not acknowledging what's going on. Maybe it's you that need the support to manage it, or you may need the support because it's triggering you in that sense. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Emmeline and Pastor Emmanuel Kemoy. We've got a question from Anna, which I think will be more related to those who are in the organization. I don't know if she's asking Khan, the organization of Khan, or if she's speaking to organizations in general, but she said, how can you support organizations hosting events, I'm guessing such as this,
Yeah, so
include youth?
yes, I think I've responded to say if that question is directed to Khan, then the person could email info@Khan with more for the inquiry, and then that will be answered there in terms of helping to support push out events or whatever.
Peace. We just want to give because we aim to finish on time, so we just want to give the speakers and every participant just a few minutes to raise any last questions. If not, if the panelists can share a few last words, and my colleague Peace will close.
Okay.
So does anyone have any last minute questions?
Yeah, of course. I was going to say again, things like this makes me realize that there's a lot of work to be done still, and it's ongoing. And I think I just want to say to the young people, like, connect with us, connect with Khan, connect with the services out there, for support and help, because for me it's great you're here, and I think we need to try and get more young people. I wish a lot more young people would have been here to listen to some of the advice and take some of those things away. I think working with young people, I know there's a lot of young people out there that are really struggling. And I would definitely recommend like youth clubs coming to pay us a visit and stuff. There are youth clubs in the community still. Like, I know a lot of people say, oh no, there's nothing for young people, or in the community there's nothing. Like, there is a youth club. If it's not in your specific community, there will be one somewhere in a local area to attend, and they do offer that kind of support, listening, debate clubs, cooking activities, stuff that can get you out the house and get your mind off things and get you engaging in something. And that's why we run a youth club. We run a youth club because a lot of the young people before we started the youth club was saying that there was nothing to do. There was a lot going on at home, a lot they couldn't cope with. So when we created the youth club space, it was to try and mitigate all those things so they can come there and feel like they belong somewhere. They can come there and be fed. They could come there and take part in activities and things that they wouldn't normally be able to do in their normal surroundings. So I think it's just important that all the young people here, you connect with the various services and find out what's on offer in your area, what's on offer for you to take part in. And let's just work together as a team. I think definitely going to be speaking to Khan around running more of these things in the future, because I'm really, really impressed that young people are here asking for advice. And, you know, you're never alone. Like for the ones that mentioned about GCSEs and anxiety and obviously wanting to speak up more or get their friends to speak up more, all of those things can happen. In terms of the anxiety stuff, definitely it's about self-belief and believing you will achieve and you will pass those GCSEs, and just trying to reach out to people who can support with any help around that as well, that area of GCSE work. So yeah, I just wanted to close by saying you young people are amazing. Keep believing in yourself, and obviously if you need any support, reach out to us and we'll support you as much as we can.
Thank you, Kemoy. Final words from Pastor Emmanuel or Emily. Oh, yeah, if both of you can just give final words. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, just you know, I know there's a lot of negativities, around young people, a lot of pressure, but I also want to say there's a lot of young people doing fantastic, doing good stuff. I just want to challenge our young people. It doesn't matter the obstacle of your generation. There are people who overcame and did well. Let it be. Let those things inspire you. As far as I'm concerned, I've had opportunity of traveling around few countries of the world, and I find that there's a lot of opportunities here. There's a lot of help here, and when they look at life from those perspectives, they will look down at some of the challenges and, reach out to be the best they can. So don't just think it's all bad, always, be positive minded. Look at people who have actually done well within the same context you're finding yourself, and let them motivate you. I'm going to just leave this words that, there's a great opportunity for them to be great in this nation than the things, challenging them. Thank you.
Yeah, it has been a pleasure, very insightful to hear from all of you, to be honest, and hearing the young person's voice. We want to hear more of that, because again, they are our future, to be honest. We have to leave a good legacy in the Black community. We have to, bring forward these young people's voice. They are the voice of inspiring, empowerment, and so forth. So that's what I will leave today. And if anyone wants to reach out to me, I'm happy to, speak about therapy, and I tackle everybody, NHS and schools and all sorts in that domain. So yeah, if anyone wants to reach out to me, I am happy to take call or email. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Emily and Emmanuel and Kemoy. Before I pass on to Peace, I just want to appreciate everyone that came and our panelists for coming. So I appreciate every single one of you. Even though I think from my end of, even though I already knew what was gonna happen, it's just an idea to start this, but there is a great potential to, like Kemoy said, have this more often, and not just for it to be a tick box for it, but for young people to see that their voice can be, well, there is a space for their voice to be heard and not just, a tick box. So yeah, that's it from me. Over to you, Peace.
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. And also to use this opportunity to appreciate everyone who is present on the call. I believe that the session has been insightful and your questions were answered. But feel free to email us if you feel like you need more direction on health and well-being at can.org.uk. And we can pass on specific questions to our panelists today and then get back to you via email, if that's okay. But yeah, just to use this opportunity as well to also once again appreciate our speakers and panelists for taking our time from their busy schedules today to speak to us. Massive thanks, and I can't thank you enough. Before I close the session, because I can see we're already behind time. Just to mention that so the Young People's Forum, and we'll be having monthly webinars, so bringing different topics that speaks to the need of young people and also people supporting them. So it could be their parents, other youth leaders, and guardians, etc. But then things that speak to the needs of young people. So today was just like a starter in terms of abuse of young people, but we know that the topic abuse is very vast. So it will be, I'll be very interested to know what aspect of abuse of young people do young people actually want to be spoken about. So is it the impact of abuse on young people, on their mental health, or would you want to talk about the prevention, or do you want to, whatever, just feel free to email us at healthandwellbeing@can.org.uk with your suggestions, and then we can put that forward as a topic and have panelists as well come on board to answer your questions and a speaker to cater to that. So definitely we'll be bringing topics your way that speaks to your needs. And then just to encourage you, for parents on the call, to please spread the word to other parents, and for young people on the call, it's great. Really, I'm very happy to have every one of you here. And please encourage your friends in the future. So we're in March. In April, there will be another webinar, and I'll be delighted to see more young people on the call. Also to use this opportunity, shout out to Joyce, who braved up today to ask the question. So we want to see more of Joyce, more of young people like Joyce in the next session. So thank you, Joyce. And lastly, before I close, we have different initiatives. So other than the young people's webinar, that's the platform for young people, we have a boys and a girls club at Can. So basically it's a holistic club that's caters for the health and well-being of young people. So engaging young people in physical activities, and from time to time we also have webinars on mental health, webinars that empower young people to gain life coping skills. So different topics around social skills, confidence building, etc. And some of these other topics around bullying, racism, and other things. We would have workshops like that in the future. We also engage young people in green and art sessions. And yeah, basically, so just having a safe space for young people. And I believe that young people who have been part of the club have greatly benefited from it. So just using this as an opportunity, if you're a young person on the club, on the call, and within the age of 10 to 18, and you would like to be part of a group, a network, please feel free to email us. I've put the different club emails on the chat, and then we can send you the registration link to register, and we can take it up from there. But yeah, just massive thanks to everyone for joining the session today, and stay tuned for other sessions. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks again, everyone. See you.